Hey, pop stars, welcome to the Popcorn Wind Down. I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy.
Thank you for joining us this week. This week's episode is brought to you by Adventures. Want to live the exciting spy life like you see in movies and on TV? We can make that happen for you at Hide and Seek, where we allow you to fantasies. Whether you want to be the villain or the hero who saves the world, come to Hide and Seek and let us make your fantasies come true. For more info, hit us up at hideandseek.venture. I would do that. I think that would be fun.
You enjoy.
You wouldn't?
Eh, no, just nah. I feel like ultimately you get in trouble.
Uh, like it could be like a. I think that would be cool. Someone should do like a reality show where they let you some spy stuff, not real spy stuff, because obviously we have enough wannabe spies and all that kind of shit. But anyway, um, we get stuck on the dreaded night shift with Netflix's hit series, The Night Agent. Sorry, I had to take off my clean them because they're hella dirty and I cannot see for shit. So let me put this back on. Now, live podcasting. Live radio, ladies and gentlemen, but live podcasting. So let's do this again. This week we get stuck on the dreaded night shift with Netflix's hit series, The Night Agent, starring Basso as Peter Sutherland, a semi-disgraced FBI agent who has been booted to the basement of the White House to work what is simultaneously yet extreme most important job in all of intelligence, answering the spy phone, which never rings. And then all hell breaks loose. So Tammy, what did you think about The Night Agent? Did it keep you up wanting more or put you to sleep?
I didn't at first when I first saw it, I was just like, I don't think it's really gonna be my show. But then I had multiple people tell me like how good it was, and I was just like, okay. And then you said, we should do Night Agent. I was just like, all right. I was like, I guess I'm gonna have to watch this. But it turned out to be surprisingly really good. It kept me entertained. Like I binge watched the first, I want to say 7 episodes in one night. I didn't go to sleep until like almost 2 o'clock in the morning because I just had to see what was going to happen next. And then the next day I binge watched the rest of it. I was talking to everybody. I was like, yo, this show is good. Like you got to watch The Night Agent. And that says something when I'm telling other people to watch this show. I was just like, yo, it's good. Like you gonna binge watch it. Like you ain't gonna want to go to sleep because you want to know what happened next. Because there were a lot of surprises in it, which of course we'll definitely talk about. But I really, really enjoyed watching the show. It was definitely entertaining. What about you, Eddie?
Yeah, I can agree. I didn't think it would be as good as I thought as it turned out to be. I obviously like spot like that, but I was expecting, I guess, run of the mill spy drama, if that makes sense. Um, but it was so much better than I thought it was going to be. And from the first scene to the first episode, I I started kind of late and I was doing something else, and I'm like, okay, this is a show where I'm really going to have to pay attention, right? So I think I watched the first episode and I was like, let me go finish doing what I'm doing. So then when I binge watched episodes 2 through whatever else. So I'm with you, except I didn't go to bed till like almost 5 o'clock in the morning because I was like, okay, I was telling myself I'm gonna stop here, I'm gonna stop here, and then I was like, I can't stop here, and I'm like half watching this show, like
Yeah.
I couldn't fall asleep and I couldn't stop watching until I was done because then I would look, how many more episodes? How many more episodes? Done? I'm almost done. So yeah, but that was my binge. That was my night agent binging story. It was really, really good. And like I love just how it grabs you from that first scene um on a train, and I loved just like how that scene plays into the rest of the scene to just set up how he becomes the babysitter of the spy phone, how he gets like the And I think that was it's simultaneously the worst job, yet it's the most important job in all of intelligence because you have to be there. Someone has to be just in case it rings because if the phone doesn't ring, that's a good thing. That means everything is going the way it's supposed to. But if that phone rings, that means some agency around the world is in a hell of a lot of trouble and they need help ASAP. And so I was just like, God, that would be horrible. But from that first scene with the train explosion and how that plays into the rest of the story, I was just like, wow, this. So did it grab you right away, or did it take you some time to get into it?
No, it grabbed me right away. That's how I was binge watching it. And nobody made the comment on, oh, you got to, you know how sometimes you watch a show and they're like, okay, you got to get to like at least the third episode and then it hits the ground running and then it's good from there. I don't think that was the case with Night Agent. From the jump, like I was fully enthralled in it. Like I was just like, oh my gosh. Because what you thought was going to happen or who you thought was going to die didn't die. And it was somebody else who was dying. I was just like, yo, I thought this person would live until the end. And they didn't. Like they ended up dying in the show. And I was just like, dang. I said, I was not guessing this right. Or even if I got the feeling, I was just like, nah, they not gonna do it. They not gonna do it. That's not how they do shows. So but yeah, it grabbed me from the very, very first scene, like you said, with him getting on the train and all the way up to the last episode, episode 10.
Yeah. You know what it kind of reminded me of? Did you ever watch 24 when it was good?
No, I I've actually never watched an episode of 24.
So 24. Okay. It just from the pacing, like when 24 was good, like its first couple where it became like 48, like long in the tooth or whatever. But when
Mm-hmm.
24 was really, really good, that's what it reminded me of and how much happened in like one episode. Like when I was going through, I was like, I can't even think of a favorite episode because of the way I watched it because I just kind of blended in together. So when we get to that part, I have more or less favorite scenes and stuff like that. But um, that was really, really good, and that was one of the things I loved about it. Like you said, I love that it kept you guessing. Like even when you thought you figured it out, you didn't quite have it figured out. And then when you thought you figured it out, they would throw the perfect red herring where you're like, were they eating yourself like, but oh, okay. And it was believable. Like, oh, like so wrong. And then you go back and you're like, but fuck, I was right. But and so and I love that because it's rare that, you know. Um and I like I said, there wasn't and one of the things I also loved about the show, the writing, the characters, the pacing, and the plot as far as plot points, because there's no random plot points. There's no throw everything tied into the main story, even what would become the B story, like with the vice president's daughter. You're thinking,
Mm-hmm.
you're it's just like, all right, you're thinking the Secret Service is just going to play in because the Secret Service protects the president, and you thought, okay, whatever, like she's going, he's good. That's how they're introducing her because he's going to need to get information from her. But I loved how every single thing that we saw tied into the bigger story. Like it was all interconnected. There was no throw points, there was no random scenes. And I guess because of that, there really wasn't that dead episode where it's just like, oh, I'm fast forwarding through all this because this is, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no,
So
definitely.
yeah, so I love that about it. What did you think about the characters? Like, did you? I loved Rose. I love the way they wrote her.
I like the fact that she wasn't a weakling. Like she may not have
Yes.
known necessarily how to fight, but she was right there with him, like helping him out. She was a very, very, very strong female character. And they didn't have to show her strength physically. Like it wasn't her physical strength. It was her take no prisoners kind of attitude. The fact that she was really, really smart. So I definitely enjoyed her character because she never allowed them to walk all over her. Um, I thought that it was very realistic on the reactions that she had at the beginning when she found out about her aunt and uncle, when they pulled her into the office to interview her. Like, I thought it was very realistic on like not trusting necessarily, because you just had your whole world blown up. Like, you're not just gonna reveal everything right then and there. So yeah, so I just like the fact of she was a strong female character, but her strength wasn't physically. She had strength in other ways to add to the fact that it was Peter, right?
Yeah.
Peter. The fact
Yeah.
that Peter was the physical strength, and he had the physical talent, but you know she had the intellectual strength. So that was a really really good combination that they had.
Yeah. And I love everything you just said. He was like, I wrote most of that down too. But one thing I also loved about her is that just the way character, um, they wrote her, she wasn't, like you said, weak. She wasn't one dimensional. She was uh, characters that she was so multifaceted, where everything can be true. She can be scared for her life because, like you said, she just blown up. And the last things that she heard is that the very people that she had to call to protect her were the same ones because
Hmm.
there was a mole or a leak. She wasn't necessarily a fighter, but there were times when she had, she could be scared and courageous. She could do both things. She could be both things at one point. You know, on the run, just because she was scared doesn't mean that she was just an absolute weakling and she relied on this person to save her. And I love that about her. Like you said, one of my favorite scenes is towards the end when she tells, "You're lucky I'm not the one holding the gun, so just shut the fuck up." Like this would be a completely different conversation,
Yeah.
So I love that about her. I just love that she was so multi-dimensional, and she was so real. Like you said, actions were real. I don't know who I can trust, so I'm not going to give you all the information. You're the guy who didn't practically save my life. You stayed on the phone with me when you didn't have to. You helped me beyond what you had to do. So if I'm going to trust anybody at this, then you're going to be the person that I trust. And I loved how, even though she felt comfortable with him, up to that trust. Like, I loved how their relationship progressed, how it grew, how it and everything that happened was just a natural progression. So I really did like that. What did you think about Peter? Did you like his character?
Yeah, like I said, that goes along with Rose's character on. They didn't make Peter like he was an elite agent and he was like the best in the business. Nobody could beat him. That's not how they made him. They made him a very realistic agent with the FBI. He won some, he lost some, he got hurt. He didn't know what to do next at all. He trusted the wrong people. I just like with Rose was a realistic character on what she brought to the table. I think Peter as well brought something to the table, but it wasn't like it was an unrealistic thing where like he was the ultimate elite. It was very realistic on some things he knew and some things he didn't know, and he had to trust other people to kind of help him out to figure out the next step. And he said that multiple times to Rose. He was like, "When I told you that I was at the bottom, I'm serious. I'm really at the bottom. I don't know what to do next. We have to trust somebody." And that's the reason why this show was so good, because I can truly believe this happening. I can truly believe this situation happening and the scenes that played out, the scenes playing out in real life. And that's what even made me more interested in it, because it wasn't like I had to broaden my mind to really like wrap my mind around like the fakeness of it, or be like, okay, this is entertaining, but never gonna happen kind of thing. Like, no, like I honestly was just like, yo, that could really happen. Like for real, like that's really happening around us right now. Like, I don't know if it's conspiracy theory or what, but I'm like, there are definitely agents all around us kind of thing.
Yeah,
So
like
yeah, so for every character, I think every character just played their role so well that I could realistically think that there is someone out there who's playing that role.
Yeah, and and I think there's something about the center around political intrigue that get me more than anything because when it comes to politics, just are and nothing surprises me. So I think I love the ones that have a tinge of political intrigue. I don't know, those are the ones that really draw me in. But yeah, I agree with you about Peter and his character because and like you said, it's not realistic for us to think, especially now. Maybe if he had remained out in the field, he should have been a little bit more have a little bit more field experience and field savvy. And we saw that he wasn't a bad agent because we saw there are things that he just naturally knew to do, like setting up the camera in his apartment, staking out the cabin that they were going to find out where he was, that someone was probably tracing where they were, you know.
Mm.
So it's like he had it at his genes, but he had it in his DNA to be a good agent, and I love that. But just him not really knowing how to be, him not being field savvy because he spent the last few, like I'm assuming from like when the bomb went off in the train, he was a relatively new to the agency. Um, you know, that he hadn't been out in the field that long. And then once the bomb went off and started figuring out who his dad was and was trying to the conspiracy theorists, speaking of conspiracy theories, the conspiracy theorists were trying to blow it back on him, saying that he was responsible, that he was part of it for clout or whatever to get back for his dad. Then to take him out of the field and the limelight off of him, they literally put him in the basement. But again, I go back to it was a basement job, literally one of the most important jobs. Like he had access to in the White House, um, but it was most people that job was just shit. You know what I'm saying? So it's like two things can be true. It was a shit job, but it was a good job. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
And
I
so
agree.
I was just like, okay, so I agree with you. He wasn't as field savvy as he would have been as he if he was out in the field, and I think that made him and the situation and everything that they were going through unbelievable. I really did like most of the characters. The one who kind of grated my nerves the most though was the female agent, although I understood where she was coming from. The pressures of being a woman doing the job and having her own team on top at being a black woman doing the job, having her own team. So everything had to be the realism of that great because being a black woman doing that job, running your own team, and her knowing that, hey, because for me there is no second chance. But it was something just about that character. I don't know. And I don't know. Like, did did you like the character or?
I liked her. I think the one female that grated on my nerves was the vice president's daughter. I understood where she was coming from, but I just hated what she did to the agent. Actually, she
Yes.
trusted you, and you left her hanging, even though you were supposed to be her friend. You left her hanging, and knowing that you are the vice president's daughter, knowing that people cannot stand your father, you were so trusting because he was a cute guy. That's literally why you trusted him, because he was a cute guy. And because he was cute and he stroked your ego a little bit, you were willing to ditch your protection. Um, Even when she gave her a lot of rope to live her life, and you still wanted to ditch her in the end. You didn't change your plans when you realized that she wasn't going to leave and she was actually going to work there. So she annoyed me more than the agent. I really actually understood where the agent was coming from.
I
I
did too.
Yeah, I got all the ways on how she was really hard. The fact of when that new agent Monks came in, that she was like, you old school, and she was like, don't come in here and try to tell me how to do my job. I've been doing this job. You know, I am a female agent who has her own detail. Like, I have been doing this job and I will continue to do this job. And so I like the fact of, like, she was very, very strong, and she wasn't gonna let the old men, because you know you call that the old man's club, she wasn't going to let the old men come in and tell her how to do something that she had been doing for a while successfully. So I did enjoy her character. I liked her character a lot.
Yeah, what I understood, I understood everything about her. And I appreciated it. I appreciate that they wrote it in, the realism of it. And I don't know what it is that just grated my, I'm not gonna say it irked my soul. But I don't understand what it is exactly that just didn't click with me for her. I don't know. I liked it. I don't know. It's just one of those weird things. And I agree with you about the vice president's daughter. I fucked up because if it was Monks who she thought was going to be on her detail, I understand her. If it were
Mm-hmm.
the other two who she thought was going to be on her detail, excuse me, I understand them ditching her. But this is pretty much, for all intents and purposes, your best friend. Like, your relationship with her goes beyond protector and protectee. Um, and she gave you her, and especially after she explained what that necklace meant to her, she went with you to find this dress. And the reason why she changed her plans to is because it was your first date with this person, and she saw how excited you were, and she wanted to be there for you in the way that, in the only way that she could, and make sure everything went okay with you for that night. So for her to go out her way to ditch her is so fucked up, so fucked up. And I was like, that's what you get. And the first thing I said is, I bet she'll never do that shit again.
After what
Um,
happened to her? Yeah,
yeah,
I bet you she told the line.
yeah, she gonna toe the line. But and even that whole, and going back to the, you keeps you guessing, like, okay, so is he part of the bigger plot? And then it was just like he was just trying to get her to come join a Greenpeace, like an or Greenpeace, right?
Yeah, he
And
just
I'm
wanted
like,
her to
why?
make a statement.
Yeah, and I'm like, why all this subterfuge for a statement? Like, you could have just come out and act like, because the way he was really doing the full court press in the seduction, I'm like, is he like a three way? Like, I mean, because just because of all everything he was doing, you thought he was part of the bigger conspiracy. Dude, you did the absolute most for the absolute least. Like, for real, for real. And I was just like, fuck. But yeah, but and then the way he got played, because when old boy shot him, I'm like, "Stop up here," and I was just like, this is so crazy. But yeah, it was. I love seeing DB Woodside. Speaking of Monks, I love him, and he still has it. He's still sexy all the way from Girlfriends until now. He was also in 24 for a couple of seasons, so I just love him. I think he's a beautiful, beautiful man and a great actor, and I love his voice. So that's just my DB Woodside shout out. Um, God, what did you think about? I love the chief of staff. She was kick ass.
Kick ass traitor.
I was waiting on you. I know you were thinking like, did you mean that? She was. She was a kick ass. Her character and the actress who played her. I don't know the actress, but I love how you knew, because from the beginning, chief of staff was involved, and then you're thinking they throw you that red herring, and you're like, okay, so the chief of staff is above board, and then but you still have this kind of like nagging question of, was I right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just when you start to get comfortable with the fact of okay, because you start by the time we figure out she's really involved, we know for sure the vibe, right? I have my timeline right.
By the time, yes, we do know.
Okay, we do know. So it was like, and but then as soon as she said it, it was like, cause, cause, I've been watching movies with Tammy now that I'm like, cause as soon as she said something about she's with your whatever, and I'm like, or when she said have your deputy friend or your police friend drop her off wherever, and I'm like, did you hear that? Homeboy, tell me you
Yeah.
like I was talking to him
I
like
caught that on. I said, "Oh shit!" And he caught that too.
yeah, I was talking to him like, tell me you heard that. Doing that, I'm like, damn, I've watched way too many movies with Tammy.
Cause you know I be having full conversations.
And I'm like, I know you heard that. And then he kind of gets that look in his eye, like, and he it's so cool how he played it off because the first thing he want to says, how you know that? But then he's like, I can't give it away that I know.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
so
he
it was
plays
just
her
like,
real quick in order to get away.
yeah, and it was just like, oh my god. And and so then it was a matter of okay, even though she hadn't been involved from the very beginning, it's just her being an accessory after the fact, and then her continued complicity in it. Because it's like you played the president. Because then at that, because her and the president were BFFs, and they grew up together, and all that, went to college together, and all that. So it's like, is the president involved? Did the friends kill? Like, damn.
And that's what I
You know,
thought. I thought that for a long time until I thought not for a long time, but I thought that up until the president was like, you know what, you got a lot on your plate. I'm gonna take this off your plate. Let us handle it, and I need you to go back to handle such and such. And she's like, no, 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 I'm good. And the president was like, no, 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 no. I know you're good. I know you can do it, but I want you to really focus on this other thing. And I was just like, okay, she don't know shit. I was like, the president don't know nothing. Like she just living her life trying to run the country.
yeah, and at that point though, when she started pushing her out of meetings, I was trying to go back and figure out with you. I'm like, okay, so the president doesn't know, but what does she know about her friend's behavior that's made her start to suspect? Because the president said something. She was like, no, I'm just thinking about making some changes, which, it happens. Like,
Mm-hmm.
the only person, and I was telling some people the other day, the only person that generally isn't a turnover during a presidential administration is the fucking vice president. But
Yeah.
everyone else is subject to turnover. And so I was like, but I was trying to figure out that made the president start being so suspicious. So I pinpoint that one. But did you
I
did
didn't.
you
At the time, I think I did, but I can't remember exactly what it was. But I kind of saw the shift when I was watching the show as I was talking to myself and everything like that. But I couldn't remember exactly what it was. But I don't think it was necessarily something concrete. I think it was a feeling. I think it was honestly a feeling. Something was going on. She didn't know what it was. Her chief of staff probably had been handling this stuff for her for a while, and she had the only when I need to know. It was a needs to know basis. And so, she trusted her because they'd been to college together and everything. And it was just I'm sure it was probably just a feeling the president had rather than something truly concrete to change the way she was with her chief of staff.
yeah. And I was thinking because and I mean I know we saw it the more especially after she said too much and Peter was on to her. Um, I know we start to see the facade kind of crack a little bit more. Instead of being a cool cucumber she was, she started to become a little bit more pressurized, a little more. tense, and I was like, okay. So I don't know. Maybe maybe that was it. I'm not sure. Um, the vice president.
Oh yeah. And his logic and stuff, like how he played his daughter and made her feel guilty for 10 years on what happened to her sister, even though he clearly knew it was him. I said, damn, you a horrible parent.
I'm like, the gaslighting and the
Yes.
manipulation is fucking real. Like, I'm like, dude, I don't say this to any characters, but I'm like, you gonna be very hot in the afterlife, homeboy. Very, very hot. Like, are a horrible parent, a horrible person, and I was like, and even when the time, think, okay, maybe he cares about her in his own fucked up way, you realize everything he did was about the optics, because the single dad who lost his wife to cancer, who lost his one daughter to drowning, he still has a daughter. And now, after the country goes through this horrible thing, and they are the ones that survive, and really, you could just tell that he had this whole spin, that they barely make it into the bunker, and they needed to survive.
Mm-hmm.
For that story to sell, if anyone had to survive, it would have been her. And so I was just like, damn, about the politics to you. Because when they came into the bunker and he was like, oh my, we had to hide in here. We just barely made it. It was like, damn. He was playing that role until she walked up in there. I was like, oh
And then he was
shit,
like, oh shit.
you know. So I was just like, yeah, but it was really, really good. Did you have any favorite scenes or favorite episodes?
One of my favorite scenes, there were a couple, but I think one, I'll just name one of them. One of my favorite scenes is when they were at the what's the oh my gosh, why did my mind just go blank? The trailers. I want to say trailer park, but that's not what you call it.
The train, the part.
No, the dock
Oh,
with
okay.
all the trailers. When they were at the dock, and you had the female assassin, she just shooting them from her high place, and all of a sudden, Rose, when Rose heard it, Rose walked up those steps, she climbed up those stairs, and all of a sudden she was like, "Hey!" and shoved that woman over, and she fell. I said, "Oh damn, she dead. She dead. Like there ain't no coming
She
back from that one." I said, "Oh
no,
shoot! All these people I thought was not going to die, died.
yeah,
Like they really died."
really died. And you know what? That's one thing I didn't talk. I actually loved the female assassin. I loved Eve, Harlow. Um, I loved her. Like, they that's a testament to the writing to make them human. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because when you see them and you're like, okay, they killed baby, and I can't remember when someone says, "Who does that?" And then it's like, well, at least they didn't kill him. No, with other dead people, but no, they didn't kill the baby. You know. Um, and then when they were talking about, so they went to go live in the house that was for sale. Um, and so she was like, she wanted their own sense of normal. And when they were talking and when they were imagining, and she was talking about having a kid and how they probably could have kept the baby, or how they should go still have a baby. And then he was like, we shouldn't talk like that. And then I guess when they were in the tub or where they were somewhere, no, they were in the car. And he's like, and thinking about our conversation. And he goes, I think you're
Ooh.
right. We should have a kid. And she goes, what? We were just talking. And then she real with it. She's like, you can't even fuck me right, but you want to impregnate me? And I'm like, oh fuck. And then
Yes.
that sounds like something I would say.
But the pause. The pause, I'm like, oh, oh, okay. Like you
When
could
she
clearly
when
see
she
in
was,
his head, he was like, oh, okay.
yeah, and then when she was like, "Oh, I said that out loud."
Yeah.
Like it
Oh
was
God.
perfect on both of them because she was like, "Oh shit, did I say that out loud?" And then, but we ain't supposed to talk about that. Like that was the unspoken thing. Like they never brought it up. His intimacy issues, and I was just like, "Oh fuck, that was real."
That was
And
real.
it was kind of, and like you said, um, you didn't think you knew one of them would die, and but then I thought one of get
Yeah.
away,
And
but
I
she
thought it
was
was
after.
I thought the female would die and the guy would get away.
Hmm. But at that point, she was like, "Oh no," she was trying to avenge her love. Like I'm like, "Oh, y'all all gonna pay."
But then you could tell they really loved each other. They were just crazy.
Yeah, and that's why I say that's a testament to the writing to humanize us because they were also batshit crazy. But it was kind of like, oh, I kind of do hope they get their little psychotic family.
Definitely. Oh.
And one other character before we move on, but I also loved her aunt's best friend. She
Oh
she was a
yeah.
cold she was a cold ass woman. Like when she knew, I can't remember exactly what she said to him, but she just sat in her chair. She had her little knife in her boot. The dog came around and she was just like, oh no, she told him, she said, if you're gonna come into my house, you need to take your shoes off. Those are the rules.
That was funny.
So that was a good scene. I think one of my favorite scenes I had. Uh, I love kind of when they fell through the when they fell when he goes when he's out on the glass roof or the glass awning, and she goes,
Yeah.
"Is it?" Goes, yeah, it's safe as safe. And then as soon as he's trying to get her to jump, he falls through. And I was like, "Oh my goodness!" And then I love like when the rednecks followed him at his house the first night he had her when he took her back to his house to
Oh.
get. And he went off on those guys. That was a good scene. But yeah, it was just a really really good show, and obviously Netflix agrees with us because it took them 6 days. Hi Netflix. It took them 6 days to renew it for a second season. I don't
I can
know
believe
of
that.
Netflix, huh?
I can believe that.
Yeah, because it's really good and it's really popular. And I'm just saying I can't even think of another show that they renewed with that fast. I don't even think they did Stranger Things that fast. But so we already know it's coming back for a second season. What are some of the things you hope to see in the second? Now that he is an official night agent, no longer the phone baby. He no longer is babysitting a spy phone. So he's an official. What do you hope to see?
I don't think there's anything specific that I want to see. I just want to continue to see good TV. Just continue to keep it fast paced. Don't slow down, and I'm just hoping that second season they don't go into a slump like some shows do. But I just want the show to stay as good as it is now. But there's nothing specific in my head that I could think of on what I want to happen, because I don't think the characters necessarily played that. It's more of a larger conspiracy. So what's going to be larger conspiracy and how they're going to play that out for them.
Okay, I can see that. And I agree with you on the larger conspiracy. I hope we find out more about his dad. That interesting reveal. Um, about now, I have a question. And so his dad really was dirty, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so, but he copped the deal or plea to go undercover to get the people who he had been working for, right?
Yeah.
And then whoever in the FBI still at the time because they found out about his deal and killed him, right?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that his dad what really was dirty, and then everything else was was part of his cover, um, undercover to get the people who he had been working for. Okay, so I hope that they continue. I hope they continue to unravel that, right? Because I think that that's a big deal for him. And whoever set his dad up, they're probably shit the head of the or some higher up in government or the head of some agency. We know that. That's how those things always work. But I would like now that we kind of alluded to it more. Now that he is at an actual night agent, I to see a little bit more of the badassery and a little bit more of the spycraft. And I hope we get to see him be more proactive. And like I said, in this first season, it made sense that he was more reactive because he didn't have the field savvy. But now I hope in the second season, and as the seasons continue to progress, we get to see him be a little bit more spy, not necessarily in super spy, but just get to see him be a little bit more. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. I can
So,
see that.
and because like I said, we got glimpses of him being really, really good at his job and being a really good agent and being good at the spy craft. So I hope we get to see more of that and not him being so, oh shucks, I don't know what to do. But like I said, that field training, all of that made sense. So, um, all right, you got anything else you want to add before we pop this baby up?
Nah, let's get to the rating.
All right, how many popcorns are you giving the night agent?
I'm gonna it'll be my first of the year. I'm sure there'll be more, but I'm gonna give the Night Agent 5 popcorns. It was really good from beginning to end. The fact that I binge watched it late into the night, and it wasn't because I was already a fan. I kind of slowly walked towards it. But once I sat down and really started to watch it, there was no stopping it. So I'm excited about season 2. Can't wait to see what they do with season 2. I hope it's as exciting as season 1. But yeah, first of the year, 5 popcorns. I highly recommend you watch The Night Agent, currently streaming on Netflix. What about you, Eddie?
I'm giving it 4.5 popcorns. I loved it. I highly recommend it. I have recommended it. I recommended it to some people, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, you were so right." Like one person, they they were house sitting, and the people they were house sitting for had Netflix, and they're like, "Damn it!" And they came back before they could finish watching. They're like, "You made me get Netflix again, so I could finish the Night Agent." So you're welcome, Netflix. I got you in my cut.
Whoop whoop.
Uh, but yeah, so I really recommend, and I recommend that you start watching it early, because you are going to binge it. You are going to want to binge it. That I've talked to has wanted to binge it or has done a binge or a half binge, and as soon as they had a chance to next it like right away. So it is just that type of show. But yeah, so the agent currently streaming on Netflix is definitely a must see. So that does it for this week's episode of the Down. Please be sure to like, listen, follow, and comment anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast. You can also keep up to date on the latest in entertainment pop amazing kernels of pop culture goodness at thepopcornwindown.com. That's it. That's the plug. Poppity pop,
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 pop, pop.
pop. Thank you as always. And be sure to join us next week when we also review a Netflix water cool show, Beef. I'm looking forward to Beef, starring Ali Wong. Yeah, so we will see what Beef is all about. Where's the beef? I'm sorry, my bad. Anyway, until next time, I'm Ed.
And I'm Tammy. Bye.
Peace.